All right, let's talk hypothesis, or if we're saying the plural, it'd be hypotheses. It's one of those weird words. So, you've probably heard this before. You've probably heard that it's an educated guess, but it's more like it's an answer to a question that you've researched. So, we're going to try to make it as you go along and you get older and you start using more experiments and doing a bunch of stuff. You want to make sure that your hypotheses get better and better. And there are a few things that you have to make a good hypothesis. Okay? So today is all about creating a hypothesis. So it's a testable explanation. All right? So we're getting a little bit bigger and older and more specific in our definition. And it's usually written in an if, then, because format. So if I go to sleep at 2 a.m., then I won't wake up in time to get to work at 7 because I'll have not slept enough. Okay? So if, then, because formats. And that kind of helps you also to know what your independent and dependent variables are, which we'll talk more about next week. Okay, so all of these parts are part of experiments. So to make a hypothesis, you have a few steps. First, you got to make an observation. So I see this picture, and if you remember from 2 days ago, observations are those things that you can see, touch, taste, smell, or hear. Okay? And so for this one, I can see that there are some plants. It looks like the same plants, and they're in front of different colors. So if I make an observation about this, and then I want to ask a question, my question might be, what color light would grow a plant best, or what best light would a plant grow best in? Okay, however I want to say that. So that's beginning. That's the first step to make a hypothesis. The next step is I need to make a prediction. And I need to make a prediction based on what I already know or what I might have researched. So, in the back of my head, I might think that the yellow light is the most like the natural light outside, and I know plants grow outside all the time. So maybe that helps me out. I could also research it and see if there's anything that other people have seen about colors of lights that cause plants to grow better. So that's my second step to making a hypothesis. And now I need to create my hypothesis. So I've asked my question, and I have done a little bit of research, or I've used some of my prior knowledge, which means the knowledge that I already knew. And now I'm going to create my own hypothesis. So remember, I said a hypothesis needs to be in an if, then, because statement. So first, I'm going to start with what I'm going to change in the experiment. And what I'm going to change in this experiment is if plants receive different colors of light. Next, I'm going to state what you think is going to happen, or what I think is going to happen. So I've said if plants receive different colors of light, then the plant that receives yellow light will grow the most. And now I want to explain why. That's my third step. Because yellow light is most like natural light. So my hypothesis is if plants receive different colors of lights, then the plants that receive yellow light will grow the most because yellow light is the most like natural light. There might be someone else who sees a blue light, and maybe they knew something about blue light and how it helps the plants grow, and they might say if plants receive different colors of lights, then the plant that receives blue light will grow the most, or red light will grow the most, or green light will grow the most. Maybe they think chlorophyll has to do with that green light and it will help it. It just depends on what your prior knowledge and your research helps you understand. So after you've created a hypothesis, the next step is to test it. So then you would get all of your materials, you'd come up with a procedure, and you'd test and see what happens. But remember, if your hypothesis is right, that's awesome. You can say that my hypothesis was correct after you've done research and you've gotten your data. If it's wrong, that's okay too. That just means that you have found something new, you've gotten new information, and you might have to go back and test again. So it doesn't matter if your hypothesis is correct or it's not, it just needs to be written so that people can understand why you created that explanation or why you predicted that. Okay? So the 3 things a hypothesis needs: it needs to be well researched, it needs to answer the question that you asked, and it needs to be specific. You got to say why you think the light that is yellow is going to work the best, or green. Or you need to say why you think only sleeping a few hours will make it so that you don't get to work in time or school in time. Okay? So, if, then, because statement. And now what I want you to do is go practice a little bit. But first, if you'd like to, I've also added an optional video you can watch, which I think is pretty cool, that also helps explain what the hypothesis is. So, that video is pretty awesome, and I think you're going to like it. So if you want to, go ahead and go watch that. As always, if you have any questions, make sure you message Miss Jarrett or Miss Wyndham, or you put it in the Q&A cafe for today. But don't just sit there and be confused. Make sure you ask a question. All right. Go forth and conquer.